welcome to today's talk for Becoming a Talent Magnet, Operationalizing Your EVP for Attraction, Engagement, and Retention, with myself, Condy, and Lisa Colella. In today's discussion, we will be introducing you to the talent magnet system. We'll discuss why a talent magnet system matters, how to become a talent magnet, as well as human-centered business-aligned activations. And we'll end with some key takeaways, a CTA, and we'll go right in. So Lisa, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Well, you can see me on screen and in the photo here, but hello, everyone. I'm Lisa Colella. I'm currently the founder of Truist, as well as I serve as the chief strategist for the organization. I have been in the space of employer branding, talent experience, and marketing design for over 16 years after starting my career in consumer branding and marketing. So my whole goal has been to translate the best of strategy and creative expertise and craft in the consumer world and applying it to the HR space. I've worked with many brands over the course of my career, including in-house at Philips and as a consultant on behalf of dozens of worldwide brands. And I'm super excited to be here with you today to share the culmination of a lot of that knowledge and experiences.
Thank you, Lisa. And I'm Condy. I am the Director of Client Strategy and Operations at Truist. I have built and operationalized successful employer brands and employee experience systems from startups to centennial organizations, from Samsara to Thumbtack, Open Door, as well as being in-house doing employer branding for the beauty tech and wellness space for over 7 years. Let's get right into it.
All right. So I'm sure many of you joined this session intrigued on what exactly a talent magnet system is. Well, it's kind of a phrase that we developed based on, in response to organizations' desire to not just attract, retain, and engage talent one time, but actually to be able to do it in a predictable, repeatable system. We'll talk through kind of the drivers behind this, but mainly some of the latest research, specifically from DDI, from Gartner, have shown that for the first time ever, talent takes up the top 3 priorities for CEOs. It used to be, talent was in there somewhere in the top 5 amongst product innovation or, commercial performance, but really coming off the back of the pandemic and a lot of the imbalances in the labor market, CEOs, CHROs, members of just basically HR and business leadership have said that attracting and retaining talent is their #1 priority, as well as preparing leaders for the future and being able to develop a predictable way to have their people agenda support and mirror that of the business strategy. So let's dive into what that means and what it consists of. What's core to this is that we're linking all of the people-related activities to company growth and profitability. Oftentimes in this space, HR has been viewed as kind of a soft or discretionary investment area by businesses. And we believe that that couldn't be farther from the truth. At any given time, an organization is striving for 2 things: to drive performance and growth. Oftentimes we call it kind of the 10x growth aspiration, as well as engage, retain, and support an engaged workforce. But how do those things kind of come together, and how does one fuel the other? Well, at any given time, a HR team, any kind of team that's doing work in the talent space, are focusing in one of 4 strategic areas. They're either trying to build awareness and visibility of the company as a top employer. They're trying to generate top quality leads. So we say A+ talent lead generation, ideally on an automated and consistent basis. They're trying to convert top candidates into high performing employees, whilst the competition is trying to do the same, or they're trying to drive greater levels of employee engagement, productivity, and retention throughout the organization. What's important is that we don't just stop at these kind of soft level aspirational goals, but that we really identify specific KPIs in each of these areas that are directly linked to the company growth goals. And that's what we're going to talk you through how to do. So, as we mentioned, the talent magnet system is a way to drive integrated, accelerated, and measurable ROI from HR towards the company's bottom line. We really try to aim to help companies apply the same rigor that they take to customer experience and their company or product brand strategies to their talent experience and employer branding strategies. We first start with insights. Like with any consumer marketing program, if you don't have insights, it's impossible to build anything that's both relevant and effective. From there, we focus on developing an employer value proposition, or what we call the people deal, which is a little bit of an EVP on steroids that we'll talk you through. After that, a company must define an employee content library. How do we bring that value proposition to life through a variety of content formats and channels and brand touch points? Develop a unique brand identity and creative expression that really sets themselves apart for first impressions across all communication touch points, and then a solid central source of information. So an internal, external career site. Those are what we see as the core foundations of the system. From there, it's how you put those foundations to use in a way that is directly related to KPIs, or should I say priority KPIs for an organization at any given time. And we'll talk through some examples. Only then can you develop an activation strategy that is able to move the needle on those measurable KPIs. Otherwise, you're just doing a lot of activity without a lot of return. So we'll talk you through each piece of this as we go through. But I wanted to give you the big picture first, so you can see how everything's integrated. The last point we want to make is that in today's world, where diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging is becoming an increasingly more important topic, it's always been important, but organizations are really being challenged to apply DEIB principles across everything they do, not just as this kind of nice to have left field program. And so that's what really we focus on too. Everything from how you conduct your insights, to how your career site functions, to how you actually approach your communications and visualize different groups within your organization should all be filtered through a DEI lens. All right, so first let's start from the beginning. Now you've seen the big picture. Now let's zoom into each piece and walk you through. What is a talent magnet? Well, we define it as an organization that is in a continual state of being able to attract, convert, engage, and retain A+ talent on demand without anxiety or extra reactionary effort or expenses. So basically, no oh crap moments. You've actively thought about who the audiences are that you need to attract, and you have a system, intentional system, I should say, to go about doing that. That's the end goal, or should I say the ideal state of any organization. Now, I'm not going to read through every one of these, but this is what we've developed as the checklist, if you will, for what makes an organization a talent magnet. For example, you have a thorough understanding of which skills and attributes make A+ workers top performers, right, at your company. You have deep knowledge about the needs, wants, and conditions that those talent segments need in order to feel happy, engaged, and thriving at work. You have a competitively differentiated employer brand positioning and EVP, visual identity, and your talent experience for both candidates and employees are in line with that brand positioning and different from the competition. You have a compelling online brand presence. You have robust employee-centric content that drives interest, engagement, and action from target talent profiles. You have clear talent-related KPIs and an integrated activation plan to meet and exceed them. You've optimized your HR technologies, both in system functionality and the content that gets delivered through them, and the teams that use them feel very confident and capable to maximize the value from them. You've intentionally defined what parts of your people operations are automated versus manual and are resourced for success based on those decisions. And you apply DEI-friendly practices across all you do. So these are the areas that we really focus helping our clients with. And if you're curious as to where your organization might fall, we do have a talent magnet score assessment. That's just a quick 10-question quiz online, which you get immediately the results of in your inbox. We'll happily share the link to that, and you're welcome to take that at your leisure.
This is also a great time to take a screenshot of this. This is a lot of content, so feel free to take a screenshot.
Yes, thank you, Caitlin. Absolutely. You can turn it into your checklist at your next internal meeting.
So why does a talent magnet system matters? It is in the numbers and also in your leadership values. So very often organizations will kind of verbally discuss how important this work is, but not necessarily apply the rigor of a sales or commercial team to the activities. But those organizations that do really have some amazing benefits that they reap from it, like 10x more organizational productivity, 36% more cumulative growth, 28% improvement in employee retention, and 50% lower cost per hire. Knowing all of these benefits, the question kind of remains, why do EVPs end up collecting dust in a shared drive? Lisa and I have decades worth of experience within this industry, and these are the common roadblocks that we see for our clients, and also when we were in-house. You may have some additional ones in your organization, but these are the most common, is that they run in isolation. A lot of these activities are usually run in isolation without leveraging all the available insights or really working with the rest of the organization to sort of connect it to overall business outcomes. The KPIs are sort of soft. They're usually qualitative versus quantitative. There's lack of C-suite buy-in. So misalignment with the C-suite and senior leaders on how this work impacts the overall business and the brand value. And then all of these things put together means that this work is deemed as discretionary as opposed to essential. And that's something that we really want to shift the narrative around. And how it makes all the difference. So the traditional approach that we see is that the activities are isolated, they're slow paced, the metrics are soft, equating into low or no ROI. And this is like a visual of sort of the traditional approach that we see. And all of this together deems it indiscretionary. So how do we become a talent magnet? We apply the same rigor to talent as sales and commercial organizations. We treat recruiters as a sales team within the organization. We manage employee experience in a similar way that we manage the customer experience. And we tell an authentic, compelling workplace story.
So as we mentioned in the beginning, HR talent teams are usually focused on activities in one of these 4 areas as their strategic focus. Common KPIs in any of these 4 areas are as follows. This is a great opportunity to also take a screenshot. Oftentimes our clients come to us and they say, we don't know how to measure success. What should we be measuring in terms of the value that we're adding either to our team or the organization at large? These are what we find the most common indicators our success of is by each of those strategic goal areas. So for example, if you're working on employer brand awareness and visibility, you'll want to look at things like reach, impressions, follower growth on your key career social channels, cost per view, web mentions about your brand, etc. And you can see how there's a common list across all of the 4 quadrants of the talent lifecycle. What's important is not that you measure all of these things, is that you create a set of KPIs that is the right level of challenge, that is motivating yet achievable and agreed by your C-level as the ones that will have the most impact on business strategy for current business strategy and future performance. As we kind of note here, when starting out, it's better to pick a few and do those really well, showcasing that you can set a goal and meet or exceed it consistently, than try to do too much at once and risk getting credibility and buy-in for future investments. So now we'll touch really briefly on each piece of the talent magnet system, but we're definitely open and would encourage questions around each of the pieces where we can go into a little bit more of a deep dive in the Q&A. First, when we think about insights, we really think about insights in 2 categories, outside in and inside out. So go ahead and click Caitlin. There you go. Thank you. We take a look at both talent and competitor inputs. So what you would typically get out of this process is an insight report that really looks at everything from your organizational workforce. What are their experience at the company? Why did they come, join, stay? What do they like, dislike? What suggestions they have for improvements? Equally, from an outside-in perspective, what are your talent competitors doing? What are their key messages? How are they communicating with candidates? What does their online presence and employee review scores look like? You should get an insights report that has all of this very clearly laid out, and that will just serve as your ground zero for anything you do, is substantiated by those insights. We typically at this phase also conduct candidate journey maps, understanding exactly the phases of decision making that a candidate or an employee goes through within their workforce journey, and understanding exactly what information and touch points they encounter at any given phase in that process, so we can really build an optimization plan around that. Typically, we also have key persona profiles for what we would call your business critical talent segments. We would define that as your highest volume, most difficult to fill roles. And each persona is kind of more or less a cheat sheet for every activity you do, whether it be helping the recruiting team have more effective communications with talent profiles in that segment, helping your recruitment marketing team develop more effective content, or even have your other HR departments build programs and strategies that are better meet the needs and pain points of those key critical employee segments. And throughout this process, you'll be able to start to develop your employee story library, where you can extract quotes, ideas, ambassadors that you'll want to be serve in your branded content later on. You really want to develop a rich library that comes with authentic employee profile testimonials and stories and quotes that can later be brought to life in compelling creative content. All of this is really to set the groundwork for being able to influence your target talent audiences with the right message through the right channel at the right time. In today's hyper-competitive marketplace, being able to do that is literally the difference as to whether you're going to be able to be successful when you need to hire and keep people or not. Without insights, you're basically having a lot of waste in your process, and subsequent investments will have a large amount of waste as well, because they're not grounded in kind of the truth of what you're working with. Once you have those insights, you move on to what we call your people deal. And this is, as I mentioned earlier, kind of a EVP on steroids, if you will. The most critical piece is that this process gets buy-in and participation from the most senior levels of your organization. And let's look at the framework and highlight why that's so important. Our people deal framework consists of 3 parts. The first is a talent brand positioning, and this states who you want to be and be known for in the hearts, minds, and lives of your employee. This is a very kind of visionary North Star. And if the CEO, CHRO, CFO, basically everyone in the C-suite is not fully aligned to it, there's no way that North Star is actually even going to be progressed towards if people are making decisions based on a different idea of what that is. Once that vision is set, then we can take a look at the more practical pieces of this, which is your people experience pillars or your culture values. This describes the way you want your employees to feel while working and contributing to your company. These are the underlying feelings or the basis for deciding which features you offer as well. And the reason we add in this people experience pillar circle, which a lot of traditional approaches to EVP leave out, is because Gartner did some significant research in the height of the pandemic and has followed actually it since. And how people are making the career decisions that they has shifted tremendously following the pandemic and other, recent events in modern history. People now choose organizations based on how they want to feel and how it makes them feel in the context of their life, not just work, much more so than just the features that any one employer offers. Obviously, there are table stakes that need to be met, enough compensation to support their lifestyle, et cetera. But beyond those, kind of common denominators that any organization can offer, the ones that stand out and are most successful in acquiring that A+ talent offer something that's much more about the emotional experience that they'll have. And lastly, you have your core employer value proposition attributes. And those are the unique set of features that really answer the question, why would anyone want to join your company versus a competitor company at any given time?
Great. And now that we have the people deal, it's really about time to tell the story of it. And we do that through employee content. and an employer content library. These are the employee stories that really support your people deal. And this is our approach to building an employee content library. And we really see it as an integrated employee content library. So there's a reason why we visualize the employee stories and testimonials as a treasure chest, because this is really like a wealth of content that can live across so many things. Very often it's only used for external marketing, but you can use it for internal comms. How we see it, this is like the lived experience of that employee content library. So experiential changes to embody the message, leader and TA trainings, resource portals, goal setting and measurements, and the partnerships that we do. And then within internal comms, external comms, we have our written content, employee stories, team profiles, leadership perspectives, employer blog articles, and then we can also do this through video, hero brand videos, team video, portraits, day in the life snapshots, scalable library. So this is really where you prove your promise. And as I mentioned, it's not just for external marketing. These can be used for recruiter enablement materials. It really is that support system to everything that you need to build, and to really engage folks to also really have something to believe in regards to your EVP. And since we did all of those insights, those juicy insights, and we have an employer content library, you can actually align it to your talent journey. Without the insights, without an employer content library, this would be very difficult to do. And this is a great way to operationalize both.
So we've heard it a million times, picture's worth 1,000 words. We really believe in our space, a compelling, visually attractive and distinctive brand is worth 1,000,000 words and more. And here's just one example of how we helped a client. If you were viewing an organization for the first time, which of these visuals would immediately you be drawn to and get actually more of that emotional excitement around? Our client came to us with some pretty generic, stock imagery or generic imagery of happy people in offices, which we know is prevalent out there in the kind of sea of sameness that exists in the employer branding space. What we really challenge really aim for is to take our client's brand where it's at, but then really make sure that it's fit for purpose based on the audience insights we have and is truly distinctive amongst the other companies that they could be competing for talent for, so that when they have those first impression opportunities, there's an instant connection and excitement.
And now we have all this great visual brand identity and the content library. It's time to really talk about our career site, both the internal version of it and the external. So it's really important to invest in a strong central careers hub. When we go to a consumer site, we're not really going to see those stock images or generic copy or sort of a website that feels like it was out of the box. The reason why is that we're savvy. We're savvy consumers. And as candidates, we are still that savvy consumer. So it's very valuable to invest in this central careers hub. I can say very definitively that most of our clients are not satisfied with their current career site. And most of it's because it hasn't been invested in and it doesn't have a connection back to the broader brand. So here are some of the bare essentials a career site should have. It's that it should be the dynamic content that is tagged and segmented by persona, skill area, and location. It delivers a seamless, intuitive search and apply process across multiple devices and browsers, that it's DEI accessible. And it's also where we serve as a filter for helping prospect applicants identify whether they're a good match for your company or culture or not. So this is really boosts the efficiency tenfold in the later stages of the recruitment process. The career site is where people land from every initiative that you embark on. If there's a disconnect between your initiative and the career site, candidates will feel it. So now that we have our foundations, it's time to put them to work in a way that will strategically guarantee your greatest ROI and impact against those target KPIs. So just going to give another visual of that system. And all of its components. And here's an example. So we took a little slice of that pie, which is the candidate conversion piece. And so what are some of the KPIs that we might want to influence within this slice? Let's say we want to improve employer ratings by 0.5 and increase candidate experience satisfaction by 10%. This kind of framework of how we think about activation is really kind of really special because it really is linking the business side, which is the KPIs and the human centeredness with the employee content, the insights, and the visual identity. So our strategic focus is candidate conversion. Our foundations are there and we have our specific KPIs. So how do we activate this? Here's the example through for candidate conversion with those KPIs in mind. Some steps that we can take is a reputation management strategy, Glassdoor and others, optimization and comm strategy for review sponsors, so we can get that 0.5 closer. Thinking about the ATS and intrafunnel communications. These are automated, yet with all of the foundations that we built, we can make them authentic. And that can really influence the entire hiring funnel and satisfaction of that candidate. Recruiter enablement and pitch and interview guides. This is the human touch part of that candidate journey. So how do we bring brand cohesion to those touch points through the candidate process? It's through the talent magnet system. Silver medal messaging and nurture. So the way we say you didn't get the job is just as important as how we say you did get the job. It's very important to that reputation management. It all kind of feeds itself. And then we also want to nurture those folks who were the silver medal candidates. They might not have been right now, but they might be later on. So what's that nurture campaign to really keep them engaged? And from a visual standpoint, we just wanted to show some additional activation strategies that you can use for different parts of the talent magnet system. And here's some things about employee engagement and retention. You can use it to have an internal document refresh, recognition programs. How do these influence how you recognize people? DEI transparency and reporting. These sort of reports are so valuable with the data, but you can also kind of warm up that data with the employee stories that you have collected. If you find yourself in the unfortunate situation of a reduction in force, the language around that is very important. And those are the moments that you really should think about operationalizing your EVP people deal so that when people are leaving, they feel just as taken care of as when they stay. And then you can also nurture that alumni network. For employer brand awareness and visibility, this is when you should start with your career site refresh. That is a foundational key point. Company signage and the touch points. Your social media strategy is affected by this, and also your awards and your earned media. A+ candidate lead generation. This is something that everybody talks about. How do we generate really quality leads? You optimize your talent community. You segment the messaging that those folks get based on high priority hiring segments. This is where you can also have recruiting events and materials. So if you have a recruiting event, where do they end up landing? Your career site, then to your talent community, then to your CRM messaging. And then once you have all of those pieces set, you go to your programmatic job advertisements for those segments. So then when you're paying for the job advertisements, they go to the talent community, CRM, and so on. So those are just a few of the ways that we can activate the foundations of the talent magnet system.
Yeah, and I think that's an important point, Caitlin, is that, what we listed here are just 4 activation tactics for each of the strategic focus areas, but the possibilities are almost infinite. What's important is that whatever tactics you choose are driven by those specific KPIs, supported consistently from all that foundational work you did.
Mhm. And the beauty is also that it grows with you. So if your KPIs change, your tactics change, but you still have the foundation to support it.
So in summary, I just wanted to say a quick thank you for staying to the end of the presentation. I hope you got a lot out of it. Hopefully what you gained from today is that, number one, work in this space is not discretionary. It is essential. We just need to do a better job of connecting it to those more quantitative, hard growth and performance goals that the C-suite like to see. That there is a way to actually do this work that helps achieve those goals in a predictable, scalable way, doing some really well-integrated foundational work and then applying them to your specific priority goals strategically at any given time. We really would love to continue this dialogue because it's kind of the mystery we're constantly trying to solve as to why we see this work as so critical to an organization's success, but that's not always how it's perceived internally at organizations. So we'd love to hear, especially during our Q&A, we'll call it QA and sharing session, what successes have you had? What continues to feel challenging about getting buy-in and investment and support for these sort of talent related initiatives? And we look forward to chatting with you then.